Hey everybody, today what we're going to do is we're going to work on dimensioning again. We're going to take what we learned last week, and this week we're going to dimension multi-views. Now you're going to recognize these three objects that we're going to dimension. We will be using the page that I've provided you. If you notice at the top of the page, dimensioning part 2 is the drawing that you'll be working on. The reason why we're using the one I provided you, some of y'all when we drew the multi-views did have issues with drawing these. So we're going to work off this one because it is clean. It's the way it needs to be, okay? So one of the first things we want to do, of course, we want to make sure that our layers is in dimensioning. So that way we put everything where it's supposed to be. And we're going to work through this first one here. So we got a multi-view. It's a 3-view drawing, front, right side, and top. And remember, when we dimension an object, as far as the features go, what we want to do is we want to dimension the features where they are best described. We never dimension a feature where it's hidden. So let's look at what we're talking about. So let's talk about this hole right here. So if we zoom in, where we can see it right there. So this hole, we see it here visibly, here we see it hidden, and here we see it hidden. So when we do this, what we want to do is we don't want to dimension anything at all to this. Now, that even includes the center lines in these two views, because these two center lines in these views are part of the hidden feature. So we can only dimension this hole, and this hole for that matter, in the front view. So what we have to do is we have to figure out how many features we've got, and then each one of them needs to be fully described, dimensioned left to right, top to bottom, and given its size. And that can take anywhere from 1 to 3 dimensions. So we'll work our way through this. So the first thing we need to do is like I said, is count the number of features that we've got. So there's a hole and there's a hole, so there's 2. This cutout is 3. And then this little notch is 4, and this little notch is 5. If we started with a solid block, we would have 5 features that we would have to mechanically do as far as some machine process. So that's what we need to dimension. So when we get started, here's what we need to look at. So let's see what we've got here. So with this feature here, our dimension is fairly straightforward. I'll click Don't Show Me This again so the note doesn't pop back up. So we're going to want to dimension from here to here, and we're going to drag it out here. Okay, so that gives the height of that dimension, you know, how big the cut is, how far down into the object it comes. Let's go right back into dimension again. Let's go back to this corner again. And let's pull up. Now notice something on this dimension. This is one of these that comes in at 2.13. Well, remember 1/8 is 2.125. So because of that, like 5/8, 1/8 and 5/8, we fix these numbers. It should be 0.12 and 0.62 for those two dimensions. So I'm going to click on this dimension, get a box. Now I'm going to just start typing now. And if you notice when I start typing, if I put in 2, I didn't override it. So a lot of people will hit delete there. So 2.12. Now I'm going to click off of it somewhere. That gets rid of it. We're still in text edit. So now I'm going to either right click or I can hit escape, and that gets me completely out of the command. Now this dimension is reading properly. Okay, so our next features in the front view are the holes. So we need to locate them left to right and top to bottom, and then we need to give their size. Well, because we've already got a dimension on this side, let's continue working on this side. And here again, don't pick at the end of the center line. Notice it sticks way out here. We can either pick here or we can pick here at the quadrant. Either one's fine. Now, if we pick at the quadrant, it will cover these breaks up, which is okay because that's just the way the center line has laid itself out. I typically would click here and then click here, drag out, and I'm going to line up with that. So if you notice, this is a 1/16 bigger than 1/4 of an inch. So that's 1 5/16. And that gives us our location height-wise for these holes. Then we're going to go back into dimension. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click on the quadrant this time, drag down. And I'm going to go back into dimension. I'm going to click back on the quadrant again and go to the quadrant here. Go to the arrowhead to line them up, 2 1/4 between them. So there's our location dimensions. We only need to put this on one end because it would be redundant if we put it out here. The only excuse me. The only thing we have left is the size of the holes. So for that, I'm going to use the diameter dimension. I'm going to click on the circle, and notice, again, this thing, the way it's set up is a way we don't want it. So if this happens, we can go into our settings and change these. It takes some really odd changes that needs to be made. The easiest thing to do is we're looking at this and going, you know what, that's a 5/8 diameter circle. So let's use leader instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the center point, I'm going to drag down, I'm going to hover here, and then I'm going to drag across to get this at the same height. Drop it right about there. Okay, landing size is an 8. That's correct. And now I'm going to type in, so diameter symbol is a lowercase n, and then 0.62. Okay, and again, both these are the exact same size. We could put typical. The other thing we could do is we could do quantity. If we wanted to do quantity, the quantity always goes in front. So we do 2 and a capital X, and then a space, and then the size. Quantity always goes first, and then hit enter somewhere off of it, and there it is, 2 holes with a diameter of 0.62. Now remember, this should only touch the circle, not the hole. So we're going to click on it, grab the grip, and drag it back to the edge of the circle, then hit escape. So this one is fully dimensioned. Location up and down, location left and right, both these are size and location dimensions. Here we've got location, 2 location dimensions to get to both of them, and then size. So we're good there. We've got all that taken care of. The last thing we need to do here now is we need to concern ourselves with these cutouts that we've got. So we need to do these where they are the most visible. So the one in the front, we see it here, but all we see is a rectangle. We don't know if this is a flat surface or a sloped surface or what. It could be a curved surface for all we know. But here we can tell the exact shape. So we're going to go back into linear dimension. Going to click here, drag up. Let's put it at the same height as this one. It is 3/8 of an inch in. And then how far down is it? Again, we're going to click here. We're going to click here. We're going to drag out. And it's 2 3/8. Now notice something. My dimensions are starting to get close. I know I've got to get another dimension in the middle of this. So at this point in time, what I would probably do is I would probably go into move, put a window around all of this, hit enter, and then I can click on the object or I can click out in space. A lot of times, unless I'm moving something specifically from a given point, let's say I wanted to move from this point to this point, then I would use points. But if I'm just doing a distance to slide something over, what I will do is I will click here, start it over this way, and say, you know what, let's move this over a 1/2 inch. And that gives me more room between the views. Now if I do that there, I probably need to do the same thing here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back into move here, grab it, drag up, and say 0.5. And now I've got them the same distance apart all the way around. So there's what we need to do there. Now for this cutout here, again, we can dimension here. So let's go back to dimension, corner to corner, drag out, go back into dimension, and again, corner to corner, drag down. Let's line up with this one. And notice what it did. It threw this outside. So let's click on it. Let's grab this number and drag it to the center of the line. So that's good. That's where we want that. So let's hit escape. But look, the number is 5/8. So again, we're going to click on it. We're going to delete it and put in 0.62 for 5/8. Okay? So now that one's good. So see, we've got everything covered. If you notice, people look at this dimension and go, you know, I need to dimension that to tell somebody what this is. Well, that dimension and this dimension are identical. So if we did put it in, what we would do is we would put it in brackets. If we were so afraid that it wasn't clear to somebody, and I'm going to show you this, we would go click, click, drag out, line it up with this one. See, it says 0.63. So let's get the dimension highlighted, delete it, and we would do bracket 0.62, bracket parenthesis. Okay. Now notice it threw it off, so I'm going to grab it by its grip, drag it back to the center point, okay, and drop it in place. So the brackets tell somebody, yes, I know I put this dimension on here twice. I did it for clarity. Okay. So if you want to do that, you can. but it's not necessary. That's one of them, you make that call. Is it clear or not? Do I need to put that on there? Okay? So that's where that would go. The only thing we have left now is overall height, width, and depth. So again, we want to group dimensions together as much as possible. So we're going to put overall width in the front view. Drag up, drop it into place. Overall height, and again, this would come from this corner. Be careful, don't pick the wrong corner. And width, drop it into place. And remember, because these are between views, we always want to put as many dimensions between views as possible. We don't do this again over here because it would be redundant, okay? Now the only thing we need is overall depth. And again, I would put that in this view. So let's go back into dimension. Let's click here, drag up, line up with this dimension. And look what it does, 1.63. So click on it, delete it, 1.62. Click off of it, and now it's correct. So have you told every single feature's location, location, and size? Well, we've told that one, we've told that one, we've re-verified that one here. We've told everything we need to know about this cutout here and here. We've told everything we need to tell about these two circles here. So yes, we told every feature's location left to right, location top to bottom, and size. We've also given the overall height, width, and depth. So if that's the case, this object is fully dimensioned. Now you're going to do the exact same thing for the other two drawings. You're going to need to take your time through it. The only thing I really want to show you is I want to show you what to do with this feature here because we've got angles. So we would have to dimension it in this feature. Okay? We'll start with what angle is it? Well, let's go in and let's do a measure. Let's do angle. And let's click on this line and this line just to see. Oh, it's a 30-degree angle. So it's a really good angle that we use, okay? So we could use location and angle on this one. We could also use location, location. So, but let's use location and angle, okay? So we'll go distance, and we're going to locate this distance from the bottom to here, and we're going to drag out, and it's 3/4 of an inch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to locate this angle. We're going to do this angle, but notice which line I come from. Pick angular. I'm going to pick this one and this one, and now I'm going to drag out this way. Now notice what happens when I do that. This sort of gets in the way of everything else I need to do. So if that's the case, we may have to change our direction. You look at it and go, that's not good. So let's undo both of those. And this time, instead of that, let's do this. Let's do linear. Let's click here and here and drag up. And that is a 1.30 dimension. That's an interesting dimension right there. So when we do that, that doesn't correspond with anything. So there again, you start looking and go, you know what? I don't like that either. So this is where we sort of have to go, well, which way would I do this? Well, we would have to go back to the original dimension that we had. Sometimes you do need to check into things and see what happens. So the 0.75, we'll go with that. The angular, again, we'll go here and drag out and place it there. This is where I told you a lot of people nowadays are starting to put dimensions inside the object. This you should not do. This dimension needs to be out here, okay? So by doing that, the only thing we probably need to tell is you know what? Let's go ahead and highlight this. Let's hit our end button and hit enter. And let's type in, with the cap lock on, TYP period. And let's put it right there. So that way everybody knows that this is typical, okay? And we can even do the same thing with this dimension. So let's go to end, space, TYP, period. And now we've got 0.75 typical. So now we know it's the exact same on both ends. The reason why I did the typical here and here is because of the weird way we're dimensioning this. Okay? So this will just clean it up a little bit. All right, so our next thing that we'll need now on this object is we'll need to go in and do linear. And let's take care of this little cutout corner down here. So let's zoom in. Let's do here to here and drag out. It's 1/4 of an inch. And then let's do from here to here. Same thing, linear dimension. Drag down. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it to the middle and it should throw the arrows outside. Now notice something. When I do that, notice how close these two dimensions are. Let's drag this dimension on down a little bit more. Okay, and then we'll need to drag this down and drop it back in the middle again. Okay? And then I look at it and go, you know what? I don't like that either. I'm going to drag this out a little bit more. Because I want a little bit of space between these. I don't want to look like that they're on top of each other. Okay? So that'll clean that up a little bit. That takes care of both of these angles. Remember, again, because this is so common, I'm not going to put the typical on these. I'm just going to leave them alone, okay? So that takes care of that. Now, what have we got left? Well, our other features is this cutout and this hole. So the cutout's real easy. We come in here, we dimension from here to here, and drag up. Right about there. Okay? Let's click on the number and drag it to the inside, get it dead center. So the arrows will kick out. And now we need to dimension in here. I want to show somebody this hole. So again, I'm going to click here. I'm going to click here. And I'm going to drag up to the arrowhead, let it sit right on top of it. And then I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click here and drag out. So what I'm telling everybody here now is this is 0.75 deep down into it. Okay? So that takes care of that. Now we do the hole. Our hole locations, quadrant, to the edge of the object, drag out. I can line up with this one when I drag out. Okay? And then edge to quadrant, drag down. And look, I can already tell I'm getting close. So here again, I'll move this object, grab the whole thing, drag it up and say 0.5. While I'm at it, I'm going to grab this whole object, set up a base point, drag over 0.5. There we go. Okay. Now the only thing I need is I need the size of this hole. So again, I know that's going to do something weird, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my leader to do this with. I'm going to click on it. Now I'm going to get radius, so I'm going to have to double my size. So it's 3/8, so it's a 3/4 inch hole. So I'm going to go here, center point, and now I can drag all the way over to here to get these two dimensions together, or I can drag up here, either one. We like to leave as many sides open as possible. See, if we do a 45, you know, it's going to sort of get it in a weird place. Let's go ahead and drag it over here. Okay, so we'll drag it to right here. Okay, say yes on that landing and type in lowercase n for diameter 0.75 and hit enter. Okay, now look at this. Look what happened. Now when I come back and look at it, look how flat that arrow is on that line. I realize that's not good. I need to drag this up some. So I'm going to drag it up, hit escape, and get that arrow off it for being flat. You know, you look at it and you think, well, maybe that's still too flat. Well, we could drag it all the way up to here and say, you know what, we would be better off if we just put it up here. So that's what we'll do. Okay? So sometimes we have to move some things around. Then let's click and drag this arrowhead back to here. And there's our size on that. So we've got location, location, size, location, location, size, location, location, size, location, location, size. Everything's done. The only thing we need is overalls. In this case, I would put my overall in this view because I've got rectangular corners to work to. Okay? And now what I need is I need height and I need depth. I could put depth here or I can put it here. Either one is fine. I'm going to put it between my height between the views here and drag out. And then I'm going to put my depth here just because I've got a couple of dimensions there instead of just one. So there's that one fully dimensioned. So as you can see, they move pretty easy, okay? Now this one has got a slot cut out in it just like this one does. It's got double holes just like, sorry about that, just like this one does. It's got another slot in the bottom. So you'll work through this one and figure out how to do it. So this will be your assignment for this week, is to dimension these three objects and turn them in. I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.